I'm going through divorce, and it's been extremely hard. My wife hardly lets me see the kids, and I don't want them growing up thinking I didn't want to be in their lives. What advice would you give me if you were in this situation?
Yeah, first off, man, I feel my heart bleeds for this guy who's going through a divorce, and his wife is, I guess, cock blocking his ability to see the kids as frequently as he wants, or maybe as the courts say. If I was in his situation, what would I do? You know, which, let's just deviate for a second. First off, those of you that are not married yet, that are in the dating scene or looking to date or looking to get married at some point, I oftentimes tell you this, like, who you choose as a spouse is the number one determining factor of like your success and happiness or your misery and failure, right? And so like choose wisely, like take your time. Like, do we agree on things? Do we have the same core values? Are we gonna have the same number of babies? Do we wanna have the same number of babies? Like, are you gonna work or are you gonna stay at home? Like, all those things matter. Have those conversations ahead of time. But that said, this guy finds himself in a position of like, man, I'm getting a divorce and my wife's not letting me see my kids, and I don't want my kids to think that I didn't care for them. So what I would do in this case, and this takes a high level of humility and salesmanship, two very conflicting traits, but I would humble myself, and then I would go and basically try and persuade her, sell her on the, like, do whatever I can to get her to become an ally, right? I know when you're divorcing, you're at each other's throat. You've probably said things that you regret, and she said things that she regrets, and maybe she's like, yeah, well, you came home and you saw she had another man's dick in her ear, and you're like, I can't unsee that. Like, fuck her. I'm not going to try and win her. And guess what? Do you want to see your kids? You're going to want to win her over. You're going to want to create some level of peace in this co-parenting relationship that you're going to have. And the reality is, when you create that level of peace and she starts giving you the opportunity to see your kids frequently, when she gets a man in her life, that man you've got to get along with. That's just a reality, because now you're in a co-parenting situation, and that man is going to have influence over your kids. And if you and that dude, her new guy, your ex-wife's new guy, don't get along, don't have common ground, don't see things the same way, he's going to begin to start poisoning your wife, your ex-wife, against you, poisoning your kids against you. And so this guy has, like, for the sake of your kids, you're going to have to sacrifice your ego and become humble and start building that bridge of relationship with her and saying, let's let bygones be bygones. What can I do to see my kids? I'm sorry for these things that I've said. We were young and dumb and maybe unhealed from trauma, and this relationship didn't work out, but there's no point in getting our kids, putting them in a position where they're going to have more trauma. They're going to feel like dad was absent. They're going to hold a resentment against mom when they find out, and as they're older, how come you didn't give me access to dad? And I know a few dads like that, man. We have a mutual friend who I won't name here, but I'll tell you offline, but he's in that position. And I'm like, dude, as your kids graduate high school and go into college and kind of start thinking for themselves, when they find out that your ex-wife was just poisoning their brain, they're going to have resentment against your ex-wife. He's like, I know. But that's the reality, and this guy needs to humble himself, start building the bridge, building a relationship, getting her to, selling her on the idea that he's her best friend, and almost start redating her, but not with the intention to get back into a marriage, but to make her fall like in love with him in a way that she's going to give him access, because that's how it is. It just fucking breaks my heart. But the moms have the access in a divorce situation to your children, and the law and the attorneys and the judges side with those moms. And so you've got to win the mom over if you want to be able to have access to your kids.
Right. Let me take you back just a second when you said, so actually getting into the part where the beginning of it, like, obviously the best thing is to not be in that situation in the first place. Like you said, choose your spouse carefully. What do you see as like one of the what's like the one or two things that you see that kind of blind these men when they're looking for a spouse? Because it's like very easy to be like, well, I can see she's crazy, I can see there's something wrong with her. But people ignore things, man. They say, oh, I didn't know the red flag, I didn't know, like, she seemed cool, and then all of a sudden it changed. What do you think is actually blinding them from even being able to see in the first place?
That's a really good point. That's a very good question. At the project, we talk about this. We say, like, all men are blinded by three things. It's going to be drugs or alcohol, right, will make you make bad decisions. Daddy issues. I'm taking my time to get to the third one because you know what it is. Like, daddy issues, right? So if you're a man and your dad was absent and he didn't teach you how to pick a woman in your life, he didn't set a good example of how to treat a woman, what kind of woman to look for, you're going to go find some broken, damaged damsel in distress. So daddy issues. So drug and alcohol, daddy issues, or as we say at the project, pussy. Pussy.
I was waiting. It's like a punchline. I knew it was coming, but it's still funny.
Yeah. It's a great joke when you know the punchline's coming, but that's it. Those are the three things that cripple men in life.
Yeah.
That's good. One of those three or all those three are going to cripple a man in life because you're like, man, that JJ is so good that I'm going to overlook the crazy, or I'm going to overlook her 4 different kids from 3 different guys. You know what I mean? Like, you can't. She's like, hey, she's a walking fucking vacuum. She can just suck like a vacuum. So I'm going to overlook shit. But she's got crazy. She's also going to start punching holes in your tires, bro. Exactly. She's also going to start, you know what I mean? Like,
keying that car.
Right, keying that car and showing up at work and getting your ass fired. And so look for the crazy, even though, that pee is really good. Sometimes the crazy must be evicted out of your life. And I would go for I don't know, I'll take average sex, bro. I will take average sex over a crazy chick. That's all I'm going to say.